I should say I'm David. I'm one of the four named on the screen. Hopefully you can see the screen. Can you hear me okay, Phil?
Yes. Hi, David.
Great.
Lovely to see you.
So Scott's just joining us. He's doing some sort of superhero style heroics to be in the talk. So he might jump in at some stage. But yeah, I'm still sorry. I'm still thinking about Loki. I was pondering last week about is there a good metaphor? Because Josh was talking about AI can't be thought of as a tool. So I thought, well, what is it then? And Anders has sort of answered that one. I think as yeah, really turned my brown eyes blue with that one. So our thing is going to be maybe a bit more low key, I think, than low key. Along with my co-presenters Lorna, Rebecca, and Scott, we're charged with building sort of not an AI policy, a criticality, critical thinking strategy and framework within our institution, UEA. I'm a psychology lecturer and university teaching fellow. And Lorna, I think you're here too, aren't you? You able to come on the mic?
Hello, yeah, I'm here.
Happy
Can you hear
days.
me?
Oh, loud and clear. Yes. So, without further ado, so we've heard about Loki. The example that this looks a bit more earthly. This image here. So this is, I think, it probably tells its own tale about sat navs gone wrong. But I've put in the notes under this slide. It comes from a podcast by Tim Harford called Cautionary Tales. He's talking about this nice connection between people using prediction tools, technological prediction tools like SatNav, and using them in an informed way, or a not so informed way, as we sort of see the result of this in the picture. But he makes a nice link back to the use of oracles and consulting divine inspiration in antiquity, and it's a nice little tangent back towards what Anders was talking about, because it's about, if you like, the mental work that goes into responding to that prediction. You can follow a prediction blindly, which is essentially what AI tools are giving us, or in this case, you can drive somewhere and not know where you've got to or how to get there again, or you can think about it and use it as a kind of mirror to hold up to scrutinize your own thoughts, as has been the case in some examples. So it's a nice podcast to listen to as a good way to sort of frame things up. How one way into this in thinking about AI and criticality is to this is a well-known model of thinking skills that I think most of us will probably be aware of, a sort of concept of a thinking hierarchy. It's something that we use in our module that I'm going to come on to talk about, that we developed to do with criticality and AI. But you can think about thinking skills in this kind of hierarchical sense with, if you like, simpler skills such as describing or comprehending, kind of leading into more advanced ones. And it gives us this kind of idea is built into various models of critical thinking that are out there in the literature. I've given one at the bottom of the slide there, but it's interesting just to reflect on. It gives us a way into thinking about what AI is doing and where the strengths and uses might lie. For example, if we go to the sort of the top of the hierarchy, very good. A lot of large language models are incredibly good at creating new material, in finding associations or connections, or transferring ideas into a different mode or genre. Perhaps weakness around this idea underneath evaluation, so forming a kind of almost an emotional human embodied judgment about things. That's something that we can do in response to AI output. But in terms of analyzing a complex system or coming up with applications or helping us understand or summarize content, you can start to see that AI resources can do a lot of these things. So it kind of makes us think about, well, what is the kind of thinking that we're trying to do in a university setting. So the module that we developed, so that there's a complex kind of backstory to why we needed to develop it. So these issues you'll be familiar with from your own context, sort of concerns over academic standards, Are they slipping over time? The assessment literacy of a new generation of students. Do they know what good work looks like, what they need to do in their assignments? Are they engaged with the teaching? What kind of outcomes are they leaving university with? The massive changes to cohorts, the widening of participation, the massification, and then this kind of pressure on curriculum design and resources. We don't have a lot of classroom time often to work with our students. I think that came through, I think, in Catherine's presentation earlier. So we had these kind of general problems, and one of the solutions that we come up for with this is building this module. So criticality itself hasn't been talked about a lot in these presentations, but I think the literature gives a fairly clear picture that it's highly problematic. There's widespread agreement about the importance of it and a kind of glamorous stereotype, but that stereotype is incredibly vague and abstract and not very easy to apply. So it doesn't really tell students and lecturers and academic developers what critical thinking is and how to produce it in any kind of tangible, concrete way. So a couple of quotes I like in this area. It's still one of the biggest problems in pedagogy, this conceptual issue around critical thinking, and it gives us an imbalance between the fact that everyone says it's important and it's somehow at the top of the tree, but it's hardly ever really done, focused on in the classroom. It's kind of tacked on to the curriculum. And AIs then come along. These kinds of models have come along to effectively turn up the heat on that whole problem with criticality by doing it perhaps better than we're doing it and making us turn in on ourselves and think, well, what is critical thinking? How are we doing it? So the module that we developed, we're in phase 1 of the project at the moment, and what we've got is an asynchronous Blackboard virtual learning environment module. Because of these kinds of conceptual issues, we've built it around what we hope are very clear and strong theoretical frameworks. So not just well-known conceptual models of critical thinking, but the applications of those and particular quality criteria that allow us to evaluate examples of thinking, that enable communications. It's built by lecturers, by academics across the university from different disciplines, and it works with lots of applied examples which transfer some of those frameworks and criteria, going back and forth between them. And there are plenty of active learning elements in it. So at the moment it's sort of quizzes and discussion board elements and problem solving, that kind of thing. We're hoping to build on that. So I'll pass you over to Lorna for information about how we integrate AI in the module.
Thanks, David. You might have to flick through the presentation, I think. Yeah, just to mention that we have a variety of different evaluation opportunities for students during the module to look at AI output in detail and use and apply the stuff that they learn in the module itself, and the frameworks of critical thinking that they're presented with. And these come from across a huge range of subjects, so they're not just applied to one example. The ideas generated by AI, if you can flick to the next one, David, sorry. We give the students an opportunity to critique the AI responses, to really think deeply about what works, what doesn't, what's missing, because they come to this sort of midway through the module itself. They already come with a good toolkit of how to approach these things critically. Next one, please, David. One of the really important things for this course is we want our students to understand what goes on under the bonnet, how these large language models work, what their biases are, all of the discussions that we've been having in this today about what goes on behind the scenes and how that might affect the outputs of this material, why it might lie to you, why it might gaslight you, and so on. So that this is a really good sort of reflection of trying to understand critical thinking. Also goes alongside being very, very critical of sort of how you put in and what comes out. Next one. We really want our students to think about not just the policy considerations for their use of AI at UEA, or in anywhere that they work in the future, but think deeply about the ethical and the legal considerations that go alongside AI. So there are opportunities for them to engage with those things as well, and it's really important to get them to think about things like the environmental impact of large language modules as well. So that's included in the module. Next one, David. Yeah, just to sum up, really, I mean, developing this kind of literacy is really, really good for our students to get them to think about higher level human thinking. What are we going to do next? Can we go to the next slide? So this is a way of thinking about what knowledge is, how we're learning, how our students are learning, how we can encourage them to really approach AI with these eyes wide open. And we are building this module. Next one, Dave, please. We're trying to make it look and feel as professional as possible. I'm sure most of us work with some kind of virtual learning environment, and you know how difficult they can be to manage. So we're trying to sort of improve the accessibility of it, make sure it looks nice, that there is engaging content. Perhaps we can gamify it, think about the learning journeys. We're doing some user testing with it at the moment, and we're planning to develop it as far as possible. We'd be really interested in hearing from people if they think this course is something they'd be interested in talking to us about or have any ideas. And this is our email address for the project at the UEA. And we are planning to have our own website for this project and think about where we take it next. So that's a summary of what we're doing. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Another great talk, and thank you both of you. I'd certainly be very interested in speaking to you both about it. It sounds really interesting. David, you've just raised your hand. Did you want to ask a question? Steve, would you be able to allow David to unmute himself? Okay, no worries. I have a question, if that's okay. In terms of kind of the length of the course, do you have any kind of idea as to how long it might take a student to go through the course? How many sections you might have, or is that kind of still a work in progress?
Yeah, I think it's the latter, Phil. So there's an interesting issue about where critical thinking sits in the curriculum. Going back to that sort of resource issue, that it's very hard for an engagement point of view, and I suppose just a resources point of view to create whole modules that are about critical thinking in a lot of programs. So what do you do? I think in my subject, psychology, it used to be said that students aren't quite ready for critical thinking or criticality work until they sort of turn a corner in their second year. But I've kind of rode back on that idea myself, and think that actually, although a lot of material present to them in the first few weeks of the course about what is higher education and what is knowledge, it would be really it's from the moment they jump out of their parents' vehicles or wherever they've arrived, is the time. So, and I think different students will need it at different times. So what we're kind of moving towards is a flexible model, because this is for the whole campus, is for all the students, that, as Lorna was saying there, provides them with different learning journeys. So for some people, they may use it for a particular assignment to reinforce something that they've already studied. Maybe they're approaching the end of the course. For other students, it might be a good pre-arrival tool, if they're really making that jump across from kind of rote learning to a sort of deeper learning approach that I think Catherine might have been talking about earlier on. So what we envisage is a kind of a flexible pathway through it, so students can find out, like, for example, with the interdisciplinary stuff, we'll give them case studies from different areas. Could be law, could be building character in novels, could be analysing molecules in chemistry, all kind of underpinned by kind of a tangible framework. And they can choose, in a kind of liberal arts sense, to kind of explore different subjects, or just stick very strategically to what they need for their subject. So it's how we manage all that complexity without them feeling that they've just been kind of left on their own, I think, is the kind of the challenge. I don't know, Lorna, did you want to come in as well?
Oh, sorry, you're muted, Lorna.
Sorry, just to say that, for some, I teach in a media, language and communications department. So for many of our students, the entire first year is about critical thinking, especially for media studies and things like that, as it will be across the arts and humanities. So there are different priorities, I think, for our students, and some of them will come to this with, lots and lots of background, and some will come with absolutely none. And this is about providing opportunities that are equal for every student to be able to be involved at a very low rate of needing tutor input. It's, all of us are working in stressful, at least if you're in HE in England, we're all working on under-resourced organisations. This is a great way of getting students to have that extra opportunity without it really taking too much time for somebody else to have to teach about what David was talking about, a standalone module on critical thinking.
And will this be a compulsory module, or sorry if you said this already, or would it be kind of an optional module?
It's one the students can take. It might be part of an award that we offer, that would be alongside extracurricular things that they do and that can potentially go on the transcript. But it would be something hopefully that we integrated with the modules that they do take. So it could be flagged up in assignment briefs or marking criteria, or different teaching sessions within particular modules that the whoever's leading that can refer back to the one framework and set of ideas. But the students, will be very much, I think, the ethos of it is as a voluntary thing. I think with criticality, if you put on sessions, even in my subject where critical thinking is a legitimate topic of study, it doesn't really sell cars. Students won't engage heavily with it. So I think it's important that the students come to it in their own way with their own sense of agency. Same with AI, I think.
I think linking to it within assignment briefs is a great idea as well. Because it's at a point in time where it's really needed, isn't it? And I think the earlier that students can kind of get their hands on that, the better. So I think that's a great idea. So yeah, thank you so much. Scott, how are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. Sorry for my late arrival. I was just going to add as well that what we're looking to do with further phases of this project is roll out staff support materials as well to support all the staff across the university and help them embed this as a kind of touch point. So exactly what David was saying, that we can use it for those students to come in and get the materials as and when they want, but then staff can always point to that as well when they've got their assessments, so they don't have to necessarily reteach that within class, or have a great support mechanism there for them to help with their students' development. So that's another phase we're looking at within the project. So we've got quite a very long-term plan with this and hope for what we can do with it.
That sounds really interesting, actually. So in terms of the staff guidance, do you have kind of modules now, or is this going to be weaved into it, or any guidance now around AI, or how does that work?
So we have some institutional guidance already that we're producing. We're producing also within this module for the students, but we're going to hopefully provide staff with training. So there is a module that is not run by ourselves. One of our colleagues actually has created it, where staff can go and look at how to use some stuff on AI, but we'd like to embed within that criticality module, because we've got one module which all students will have access to, and then we're creating another one which is for all staff to have access to, which will then be like a resource hub, so staff can share best practice, but also alongside that, there will be that training with the use of AI, and hopefully that can help upskill colleagues where needed to embed the use of AI across the university within that learning journey for all the different modules that the students have. And again, it will be up to the staff how they do that. We're not going to force anything on anyone. There's a point here where you've got some brilliant resources to help you, and given the current climate, as my colleagues have said, within HE, having that support there for colleagues, I hope would be of great value.
Absolutely. I think they're kind of providing there as an optional kind of take this when you have the time, is a great way to do it. So yeah, some really great advice and tips there. So thank you so much.